Communication is complicated because of its many components that form the process. There is a chance for error in each component. Today, we will look at 7 components of the Transactional Communication Model. They are context, sender-receiver, message, channel, receiver-sender, feedback, and noise. Let's begin with context. Context is the situation in which the communication occurs. Basically, it is who is involved, where are they, and why are they there. If you change any part of context, that whole situation can change. For instance, if you are with a group of friends at a friend's house to build a shed, your communication expectations will be different than if you are employees on a job site to construct a shed. Communication begins with a sender who sends a message to a receiver. But before they can send the message, they need to consider the best way to successfully get their message to the receiver. That method of communication is called the channel. There are multiple channels available. A few would be billboards, phones, television, letters, radio, computers, signal flags, books, drum signals, and face-to-face communication. Channels can create one-way communication, or they can contribute to an exchange called transactional communication. Stop this video and get a piece of paper. Draw a Venn diagram and place these examples of channel into one-way, transactional, or both one-way and transactional categories. Restart the video when you are finished. So let's look at your results. It would be hard to respond rapidly to billboards, books, television, radio, and letters. These are primarily one-way forms of communication. It would be nearly impossible not to have a response when using face-to-face, because even if you gave no response, you created a response of avoidance. Signal flags, computers used as Zoom or email, phones used for calls or text, and drum signals can be transactional, or the message could travel just one way with no response. Now, let's look at another aspect of channels. They can be verbal, using spoken words, or nonverbal, which is every means of communication except spoken words. Turn your Venn diagram paper over and this time categorize the channels into verbal, nonverbal, or both verbal and nonverbal. Stop the video while you work and continue the video when you are finished. Did you come up with radio as a verbal? It has no other form except spoken words. Billboards, signal flags, drum signals, and books have no spoken words, so they are nonverbal. Phones, television, computers, and face-to-face can be verbal or nonverbal, or both at the same time. Our first example was one-way communication. The communication ended when the receiver got the message. But what would happen if the receiver responded? It would become transactional communication. The communicator selects a channel and transmits the message. They are now the sender. The other communicator receives the message and becomes the receiver. But when they give an observable response, either verbally or non-verbally, our second communicator has become a receiver-sender because they received the message and sent feedback. When the sender receives the feedback, they become a sender-receiver for sending the message and receiving the feedback. The first term tells you what they did with the message. The second tells you what they did with the feedback. So let's insert a realistic conversation. The sender-receiver transmits a message. How many times have I told you not to text while driving? The receiver-sender produces the feedback of, I'm sorry, I'll pay the deductible. The sender-receiver sends additional feedback. You're grounded until you're 35. Now, as long as this conversation continues, they will be in a feedback loop. And communication becomes even more complicated by noise. Noise is anything that temporarily disrupts communication, even for a fraction of a second. Even short disruptions can distort the communication that travels between the parties. There is external noise, audible sounds going to the ear, or elements in the surroundings that create distractions. Even having an air conditioner cycle on produces a disruption while you process what that is to determine its origin. There is also internal noise, any thoughts or feelings that we have. And even thinking about the communication we are having produces noise that could cause us to miss part of that communication. Noise is always present. It is unavoidable because of the many avenues it has to impact our communication. So as a review, see if you can list the 7 components of the transactional model. Stop this video while you do. How many of these did you remember? Now that you know, look for the impact of these components of transactional communication in your interactions.